At least I wasn't beheaded. So before I start my presentation, just a tiny bit of background. So this is part of a 50-minute presentation that I'm going to be giving to lawyers. So I've tried to fashion it in such a way that it doesn't, that makes a little more sense, you know, because when you're taking something out of the middle of something, you can lose the context. I don't want loss of context to cause confusion on my part, so I'm going to try and have that not happen. So, as attorneys, we have 3 fiduciary duties to our clients: full and frank disclosure, duty of loyalty, and duty of care. And I want to talk with you about the most difficult for me of those 3 duties, and that is the duty of full and frank disclosure. The reason why it's so difficult, for me, I'm not sure everyone else here experiences it. In fact, here's a great example. A couple weeks ago, a client came into my office with his wife and his 2 children. And I'd been dreading this meeting. I had spoken with 2 of his doctors, both of which were unwilling to relate the physical problems he was having to the motor vehicle collision he was in. He has not worked for a year. He's not been able to support his family. It has been devastating, not just to him, but to his wife and his children. And I had to tell him this news. And I dreaded that. I mean, who wouldn't, right? But I had to tell him the truth. My job is to make sure that my clients have all the information they need so they can make their best decision. Not what my decision would be, right? Not what another client's decision would be, but their decision. I believe that each one of us have a God-given right to make bad decisions. And no one should take that right away from us. So if my client is not going to make a good decision, it's not going to be because of me. It's not going to be because I was a participant by effectively not giving them the information they need for them to make their best decision. When we first meet with a client, we have 2 primary objectives. The first one is to understand, why are they coming to us? What is the purpose of them coming to us? And the second part is to gather all of the information that we need to be able to help them accomplish that purpose. Now, it may not be exactly in the end what they want it to be, but that's why they're coming to us to give them advice. In the simplest of terms, our job is to advocate for our clients. And there are 2 worlds in which we advocate for our clients. The first one is the outer world. The outer world being my client maybe has to deal with a DA because there's a criminal charge against them. Or maybe there was a breach of contract and someone hasn't done what they were supposed to do. And my job is to protect them and to make sure that people from the outside aren't doing what they shouldn't be doing, or are doing what they should be doing. The other part, the other world, is what I call the inner world. And that is where part of my job is to protect my client from themselves. Because if I'm not giving them all the information they need, if I'm not taking the time to gather that and understand it, then I can't really do my job. So we have the outer world and the inner world that we are advocating for our clients. How many here have thought, if we applied these same principles that we give to our clients to ourselves, how would that change how we advocate for ourselves? What we learned in law school about how we advocate for our clients, the procedures we're supposed to go through, if we take those exact same concepts, they're sort of like a roadmap that we apply to ourselves, we will transform how we approach advancing or advocating for our own, whether you want to call it self-actualization, personal and spiritual development, evolution. We all have the words that we use to describe that, right? And if we use those same principles, we can be advancing our lives better. So while there's a lot of similarities, there's also one really big difference. When we advocate for our clients, it is in an adversarial setting. I win, you lose. You win, I lose. But when we're advocating for ourselves, not from a self-involved standpoint, right? But from an advancement of who we are, who the truths are that live inside of us, then everybody wins. I've often believed that the answer to a question is seldom as important as the question being asked, because the question is driving the answer. And if we're not asking ourselves the tough questions, how can we advocate for ourselves? There was a great book my wife read last year called, I always get it mixed up because it's a play on words, The War of Art. Instead of The Art of War, right? And the author in this book talked about the difference between what is urgent and what is important. And we all know in our lives that our days are full of urgent things, constantly taking our attention. And if all we do is focus on what is urgent, then we are forgetting what is important. So as we move forward in our days, remember what is important and keep focus on those to advocate for yourself. Thank you.